Hello and welcome to Capital Games Movie Club. I am The Wiz. Today we are reviewing The Muppet Christmas Carol, starring Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Gonzo the Great, Rizzo the Rat, and some actor named Michael Caine, directed by Brian Hensen. Before I get into the movie itself, I just want to say, I talked a little bit about the Muppets last episode, when I discussed what movie I'm watching. When I was watching the Muppet Christmas Carol, the thing that started crossing my mind is how underrated the series is. Yeah, people like it, but it doesn't get really the respect I think it deserves. Like, the Muppets are, the Muppet movies, aside from the made-for-TV ones, or the made-for-video ones, ignore those. The ones that went to the theater are solid films, and I don't think a lot of people give them credit because of how solid they are. They're not fantastic, not something that I would put on a top 10 list or something like that, but they are usually very entertaining and good for everybody to watch. And this is also to do with the TV shows, except for the last TV show that the Muppets did. That one was bad. Like the Muppet Show. The Muppet Show to this day is still fun to watch. So the Muppets don't really get a lot of credit for the quality they give out on each movie. Like, I'm looking at some of the movies, like, I haven't seen the first two Muppet movies, which is the Muppet Movie and the Great Muppet Caper. But Muppet Treasure Island is surprisingly good. Muppets from Space is very good. The Muppets with Amy Adams was actually really good. Muppets Most Wanted was good. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed that. But yeah, these are all solid films, and which will also give way to what I think of the Muppet Christmas Carol. So why don't we just get in to that? So the Muppet Christmas Carol, directed by Brian Hensen. This is the son of Jim Henson. He made this shortly after Jim Henson died, if I recall correctly. It was Jim Henson and another puppeteer died around the same time. His name was Richard Hunt. They, I think at the beginning of the movie, they honored the film with them. But yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol is, first of all, like all the other Muppet movies, it's a very good movie. But what I was surprised when I watched it was how faithful it was to the Christmas Carol book. It just has Muppet trappings in there. Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that, because usually when they kidify or they do an adaptation like this, they usually change things around, or they did change one thing around, but that was fine. They usually change things around. They usually add characters so that the kids can get, like, emotionally invested in some sort of way, in some wacky character. Well, maybe Rizzo counts with that, but anyway. But they didn't change it that much. It stayed true to the story of the Christmas Carol. And I want to start off by, let's just get to performances real quick, because there's only like one performance to talk about. It's Michael Caine. And Michael Caine's great in this. I read articles about this movie after I watched it, and it didn't surprise me to see that Michael Caine pretty much said to Brian Hensen when he decided to do this movie, and he was excited to do this, and it kind of shows in the movie how excited he was to do this movie, that he was going to do this movie straight like it's a London theater presentation. Like, he was going to be super serious. He wasn't going to mug for the camera. He wasn't going to do anything silly. He was going to play it straight, and that's exactly what he did. And you know what? The movie is very effective doing that. He gives a very good performance, which, it's Michael Caine. That's not a surprise. So he did the role of Ebenezer Scrooge very well. And the fact that he played it so straight while being around a bunch of Muppets, at first it was kind of funny, but then it just fits really well. I don't know how to explain it, really. He just seems so natural with the other Muppets in the movie. And usually with all the other Muppet movies, I'm talking, like Treasure Island and Muppets from Space. Because these are Muppets and they are, puppets and they act wacky and stuff, the characters themselves end up acting kind of wacky as well to counteract or to just blend in with the rest of the shenanigans that the Muppets do. The fact that Caine was able to not do that and to still make it seem pretty good, to seem good and to seem enjoyable to watch it and not feel weird, I think really shows how talented he is. The movie better. I don't think if you had another actor there who was as good as Caine playing Ebenezer Scrooge, that you would have this. He would have to mug. He would have to do silly things as well, or do pratfalls or stupid stuff like that in order to keep the movie entertaining. The fact that this is just a straight interpretation, just with Muppets, it was really interesting to watch and to see how effective it was. I got a thumbs up on that. That surprised me. I was expecting a lot of different things to happen aside from what the actual story entails. But when I realized that, oh no, they didn't do that at all. They just did a straight adaptation and just sprinkled some of the Muppets in there. Like the asides with Gonzo as Charles Dickens. That was good. I liked that. Gonzo as Charles Dickens and with Rizzo were pretty funny. They were pretty funny on that as well. Really, not much to talk about. The writing is the writing. They adapted the Christmas Carol faithfully and just sprinkled on some Muppets in there. And they got the blend very right in this. They stayed true to the novel, but they added enough personality from the Muppets that it's still entertaining in what I would think that most kids would find like the slow sides of the story. And I gotta give them credit too. A lot of adaptations of A Christmas Carol. I'm thinking of Mickey's Christmas Carol, some other ones of Christmas Carol as well. They really downplay how sick Tiny Tim is, and this movie didn't do it. They showed him coughing, having a hard time breathing, being overexcited. Like they don't shy away from that, which is great. I thought that was a good thing to do as well in this. Yeah, but that's it really. Like the jokes aren't bad either. The jokes are pretty good. Like there's some funny things that happen in the movie. It was clear that the director and the writers wanted to keep the Christmas Carol central to the story and just sprinkle in the Muppets from time to time. And that was it. And that was a great move, because that's something that Muppet Treasure Island didn't do, which is fine. But I don't think you could get away with that with the Christmas Carol. And they didn't try it. So, and it worked well in their favor. As for direction, I think this is Brian Hensen's first directing. I think this is his first time directing, and it was good. It's not a big looker. It's not something amazing, but oftentimes, like, I often, when watching this, I was like, how did they do this? Not how they do this shot, but how did they make it look so good without seeing the strings or seeing the holes in the Muppets or anything? Like, I would like to see a behind-the-scenes thing about how they make. I think there are stuff about how they make Kermit walk, and how to not make the strings look visible in a shot. Like, I would love to see stuff like that, because it is often amazing how it looks and how they were able to do all that stuff without it looking like, oh, there's the puppet strings, oh, there's where the hand goes. So yeah, that's really, I really want to see a behind-the-scenes thing of that. But when it comes to shot composition and the way the movie looks, I mean, it's average. It's nothing to write home about, but it does the job. It is what I would say. And it's rudimentary, I guess. It's average. It doesn't do a lot it's not showy, but it does enough to just let the story go through, which, fine, that is perfectly fine. So, I can't say it's bad, but I'm not going to turn around and say, like, oh, it's amazing. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. It does what it does. Okay, I'm not going to go into spoilers in this because, honestly, I think we all know the story of the Christmas Carol, and it would be kind of pointless to do spoilers on this. So let's just get right down to my final thoughts on Muppet Christmas Carol. Muppet Christmas Carol, I can see why a lot of people do like this movie and think it's one of the better Christmas movies out there. It's got a great performance by Michael Caine, doing a very good Ebenezer Scrooge. The Muppets are used only, they're used I wouldn't say sparingly. They're all over the movie, but the humor and the madcapness is toned down, which I was kind of surprised by. It's toned down, but it's blended so well with the story that it just still fits. And I understand why a lot of people find this to be their favorite interpretation of the Christmas Carol, because it is faithful to the main story. The details might be off, but, whatever. They are making it a Muppets version. But with that, it's still a pretty faithful adaptation to a certain extent. Of course, they changed stuff. I definitely enjoyed it. I see why a lot of people like this movie, and I'm glad I saw it. And it makes me want to see the other Muppet movies that I haven't seen yet. So, I'm not gonna go crazy. This is a 3-star movie. I definitely enjoyed it. I think it is one of the better Christmas movies out there. I'm gonna watch one more for next week. And yeah, if you haven't seen it and you still want to get into the spirit, I definitely enjoy it. I'd say go ahead and watch it. You'll like it. All right, so we are at the end of the review, and as it is the middle of the month, Criterion Collection announced the new releases coming in March, and there are some doozies in here. So let us get into what was announced. Let's get into the first movie, which is an update. There is a 4K version of Mildred Pierce, the movie starring Joan Crawford, directed by Michael Curtiz, who is the director of Casablanca. I haven't seen this yet. I definitely want to, and I already own the Blu-ray, so I will give that a shot one day. It's just to see how it is. It is a 2-disc set. It is $40. It'll be available March 7th. March 14th, Last Hurrah for Chivalry, the John Woo movie. It is a movie like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's a wuxia movie. I think it's wuxia, Wuxia. Sorry if I said that incorrectly. When I heard they were doing they were putting a John Woo movie into the Criterion Collection, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, they're bringing back The Killer in Hard Boiled. Of course not. Of course, that's not what this is. But from what I've read of Last Hurrah from Chivalry and some of the things I've seen, it looks pretty good. So I might check this out. But I am hoping they try and fight to get Hard Boiled and The Killer back into the Criterion Collection. I would definitely like to see one of those movies from John Woo get in there. March 21st. This isn't a surprise at all. David Lynch's Inland Empire. They have been hinting at this, and this has been rumored for, I would say, a good 6 months. I know that Janus Films has been distributing this in theaters as well for a period of time, so this is not a surprise at all. Everyone was just waiting for this to finally be announced, and it's been announced. Inland Empire it might be David Lynch's last film. It stars Laura Dern, and it's I don't know how to explain it really. First of all, I haven't seen the film, but from everyone that I've talked to that has seen it, it's kind of like a really dark Mulholland Drive. And if you've seen Mulholland Drive, that movie gets dark. So if this is darker, oh boy, that's gonna be interesting. I know a lot of people who love David Lynch are probably just gonna grab it, sight unseen anyway. I might do it myself. That'll be interesting when it comes out in the 21st. The 28th, Chilly Scenes of Winter, directed by Joan Micklin Silver. I gotta be just honest with all of you. I've never heard of this director, and I've never heard of this movie. The Criterion Collection calls it an anti-romantic comedy. It's about a guy who gets involved with a married woman who was separated, but he's having a hard time dealing with that romance being over, essentially, is what the movie is about. So, okay. I mean, that's interesting. I gotta read more on it. I've just never heard of this film, but it looks interesting. Like I said, I gotta read more on it. I'm not saying I'm not interested. I just don't know much about it, really. So maybe there's a trailer or something I can read about it, see if it's worth my time. So yeah, those are the 4 films that were announced by the Criterion Collection. Mildred Pierce, a 4K UHD that's coming on March 7th. Last Hurrah for Chivalry, the 14th. Inland Empire, 21st. And Chilly Scenes of Winter, the 28th. If you are interested, you can go to the Criterion Collection and go and pre-order them now, and you'll get them once they release. So go check that out if you are interested. All right, so we are at the end of this episode of the Capital Games Movie Club. Before I go, we're going to go to the final question of the podcast. This past week, WB Discovery has announced that not only have they started canceling TV shows from their service HBO Max, they're now pulling them from their circulation. And these aren't just any shows. The Nevers, Raised by Wolves, F-Boy Island, Legendary, Finding Magic Mike, Head of the Class, The Time Traveler's Wife, and the one that surprised me the most, which was just canceled this year, Westworld. I'm going to give credit to Helena in Zero's Discord server, who called this. What HBO Max and WB Discovery is doing is they are pulling the shows and putting them onto fast networks. And fast networks are described as free ad-supported streaming services. Think Tubi or Freevee or something along those lines. And they're going to put them there with commercial, what it sounds like. Like I said, I am very surprised that maybe not the others that have been listed, but the fact that Westworld is going to these fast networks is really surprising. But then again, Westworld not only dipped in quality. I watched Westworld season 1 and loved it, and 2 was a absolute disappointment. It was so slow, and it bogged down like big time. And they kind of did the same thing that they did in the first season, which didn't really work very well. As the seasons went on, less and less people watched Westworld, which is why I think WB Discovery decided to just can the series, even though the 5th season was on contract. So they just said, nah, don't worry about it. We'll do without, thank you. And that's it. The fact that they're putting him on, I guess, fast networks, I guess what they're going to do is they're going to hope to get some money back through those networks through advertising. I guess is my guess is what's going to happen here. Why am I talking about TV shows on HBO Max? Well, the question that I've seen coming around is, what does this mean for movies? Are movies what movies will this happen with? Because a lot of people are thinking that if it's happening with TV shows, it will definitely happen with movies. Here's the thing. I've thought about this for a little while. And I don't think movies are in as much danger as TV shows in this. The reason why is that TV shows require more of an investment to get into it. Like, I look at it, Westworld, okay? Westworld, I think each season was 9 to 10 episodes. That's an hour each episode. So that's like 9-10 hours to get the whole story. And if it doesn't hook somebody by the first or second episode, no one's going to bother with the rest of the episodes. So there is more of an investment involved when you're doing these TV series. These TV series can be expensive. Like, look at Westworld, for example. Like, Westworld was an expensive series. They kept losing viewers and losing, even though that the sets and everything looked more and more expensive as the time went on. If I was a bean counter, I would look at that and go, yeah, we got to get rid of that. Like, that's not working out. And I'm not saying movies aren't expensive either. They definitely are. But there's less an investment involved in movies. With me, I'm going to use me as an example here. If I'm watching a TV series and by episode 2 or 3 I'm just not into it, I'm going to stop, more than likely. Unless someone tells me, oh, no, you have to. It gets so good. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to continue. But with movies, let's say I'm watching a movie and I'm just not enjoying it. Okay, I've got another hour and a half, or I got another hour. Whatever, I'll watch the rest of it. No big deal. Doesn't matter. You get the watch time and that's it. If you have, and I think that's why they're pulling these movies or these series specifically, because of the time investment involved. And let's also put into consideration this as well. They also want people to come back to rewatch the series. Okay? Like with HBO Max, do I think series like The Sopranos and Game of Thrones, do I think they are going to be pulled? No. Because I will bet money there's a lot of people who go back to watching those shows. I know people on a bunch of servers and a bunch of groups I'm in who every year, even though they catch up to other TV series, they go back and watch The Sopranos. They go back and watch Big Little Lies or Big Love. They go back to watch those shows. I'm specifically looking forward to watching The Wire again, because I think The Wire is the best TV series of all time, and I'm gonna definitely check that out as well. And they're making, I think they made a sequel, or was it a spin-off to The Wire? I think at one point. So HBO knows where it comes. Like hell with The Sopranos, they made a movie. They made a Sopranos movie that was a prequel. They know what works, so they're not going to pull like those TV series. But with movies, I also think that they're fine. They're not going to deal with that because yes, there are movies that are like 100, 200, 300 million dollar productions that need like 200 million. Most of these movies have had time in the theaters. Movies are also like, and I know TV shows have too, but movies have a built-in fan base that wants hard copies of those discs so they can make money that way as well. There's just more avenues to make more money with movies than there are TV series. You could see somebody looking at a movie they haven't seen and it's like 10 or 15 bucks and go, okay, yeah, I'll buy it. But if it's a TV series they haven't seen and it's 50, 60, 70 bucks, they're not going to take that shot. They're not going to do that. I think, yes, the TV series that don't get the views and don't get people to sign up for the service, I think they're going to those fast networks. But I do not think movies are. And another thing that people were really afraid of in regards to movies is that HBO Max quietly has a rich, huge catalog of old movies, thanks to TCM, but also other HBO movies that they put on there. And a lot of people were afraid they're going to start pulling those too. Let me lay that to rest. They're not doing that. TCM, it's Turner Classic Movies, is part of HBO Max. And I don't see them saying, like, oh, unless they spin off TCM to their own service, which I don't think would be a good idea. Unless they do that, I don't think they're going to pull those movies. It would be, especially classic movies, because there is a built-in enough people who just love nostalgia or just love these old movies that will watch them again and again and again. These types of movies you're fine with. And I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure film studios like Janus Films and places like the Criterion Collection also, I don't know if they pay or what, but I'm pretty sure there is a lucrative deal with HBO Max to put them on the service. So I don't entirely think that that's a loss for them. So those who are worried about like movies, like old movies, popular movies that are going to get pulled, I really don't think so. Unpopular movies people don't like, movies that people don't watch, possibly. But I think these pulling of shows has more to do with TV series and how much money they need to be made and them getting pulled than it is movies. So I really do not think that that's what's going to happen. Could I be wrong? Yes, I could definitely be wrong about that. I am much less nervous about it than I was when I first heard the announcement. Like I said, unless they become super. And another thing to point out too, yes, Westworld is an HBO mainline series. HBO proper has been showing Westworld for a while as well, but the rest of them were not. These were Max series. So I really think this is more to do with how TV series is being distributed and how they're being held. I don't know if this is a space thing. Some people think it's a space thing. I don't know about that. It might be. I just think that because TV series need more investment to get into, that's why they're pulling these. I mean, you can get anybody to watch an hour and a half, 2-hour movie and be fine. But to watch a 10-hour series, that needs some investment. And I think that's why a lot of these are getting pulled and putting it onto these fast networks. So they're not going away entirely. They're just going into these different networks with commercials, which I understand the fast networks and their appeal, but I just wish they would offer something to get rid of the commercials. I have been wanting to watch Peeping Tom for a long time now. And someone on Twitter let me know that, oh, Peeping Tom is on Tubi. I'm like, oh, great. I'll watch Peeping Tom then. And then I realized, oh, no. Tubi, there's commercials. And I was specifically going to look at subscribing for a month to Tubi to not get the commercials, but they don't offer it. And I'm like, shit. I do not want to watch Peeping Tom with commercials. I'm fine with watching TV shows with commercials, but movies I can never do. I can't explain why. I know some of you are fine with it, and that's great. But it just feels wrong to me to watch a movie with 30-second commercials cut in between, like, specific scenes. It would just aggravate the hell out of me. For those of you who think that movies might get affected by this, I'm thinking not, but I could be wrong. But I'm not so worried. So if you're worried about, let's say, some classic movies getting pulled, I would relax. I don't think that's going to happen. But I could be wrong, but we'll see as that time comes. Okay, so we are at the end of the episode. I'm going to talk about the next movie that we're going to be reviewing this coming week. I mean, this has also been told to me as a Christmas classic, and it's something I haven't seen. Honestly, I think it's about time I pull the ripcord and just watch this movie. And the movie is A Christmas Story, directed by Bob Clark. All right, so I'm going to watch A Christmas Story, directed by Bob Clark. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have not, like, with Christmas stories, period, I have never had much of an interest in Christmas movies, and I specifically have not had an interest in The Christmas Story. I don't know why it is. I don't know exactly why it never has appealed to me. I just never wanted to watch this movie. And this is coming from somebody who really isn't a fan of Home Alone either. So, yeah, anyway. But anyway, we'll get on with this. Tune in next week where I review A Christmas Story directed by Bob Clark. I am The Wiz. This is the Capital Games Movie Club. Talk to you next week. Bye.